The battle between Class 1A and Class 1B continues, but who will win and who will lose? But to be fair, I have a feeling I know who it will end up being. Speaking of feelings, I've been feeling rather ill all this week, so no video from me, just audio, and even then, this is the second time I've had to record this. The first time I recorded it, it screwed up major time, so I feel especially ill and stressed and tired right now. But if you want to make me feel a little bit better, give the video a like, share it with your friends, click the bell, subscribe, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. It'll make me feel better, and it'll do me a power of good. So we'll get on to the actual review of the episode itself. I thought this week's episode was solid. I did enjoy it almost from start to finish. There are a few things I feel did need a little bit more polish. But we'll start off with the positives because I feel that that's a fine way to begin the review. As always, I think it is fantastic to see our extended cast using their powers. And in some cases, we're seeing them use them for the first time. The majority of our extended cast have just kind of stood there in the background looking quirky and interesting, but not really doing all that much. And as fantastic as last season was, it was so focused on a handful of characters that our extended cast just weren't really seen much at all, let alone the ones in Class B. And as always, I am amazed how this show is able to juggle such an inflated cast without anything feeling as though it gets a little bit too confusing or our runtime is taken up by needless character or anything's dragged down in quality. It does it all fantastically well, and I'll always take my hat off to it. I do have a feeling this fight is going to be one of the more one-sided ones. I feel that Class B isn't going to win this, but we'll soon see. And another thing that I do enjoy with this program is the superpowers themselves and how creatively they are used. So is often the case when it comes to superhero fiction, that so many times we'll just have fights which end up boiling down to people throwing cars and laser beams at each other. And with anime stuff, it often boils down to two people standing in a field, shirtless, screaming at each other whilst thumping each other really, really hard. With this program, we don't really get that. There's been the odd moment here and there it's kind of pivoted around that, but by and large, it's all been very innovative and creative stuff, which makes the fights themselves a lot more interesting because it's not quite as simple as, oh, this character's got a higher power level than this one, or this person's got a power that ultimately makes the other one moot. No, there's a lot more creativity in it, which makes the fights themselves a lot more in flux, which is why I feel that, sure, whilst I'm calling this fight for Class A, Class B could still maybe do it. We'll see. I don't think they have a snowball's chance in hell's chance in doing it, but we'll soon see. As for the negatives, and I should point out that, yeah, I did enjoy this episode quite a bit, and the only issues that I have with this episode are really technical stuff that only people like me that have been writing for the better part of 15 years in theatre and radio and television and such is only really going to pick up on. It's mostly technical stuff, the more boring stuff, but still it's issues I feel do need expressing. I feel that more than half of the runtime of this episode was focused a little bit too much on character moments and flashbacks. Now, there's nothing wrong with that per se. Character development is a key and vital part to any piece of fiction, and without it, your works aren't going to survive for very much longer in the real world. They very much need that, and I know that isn't good English, but forgive me, I feel very, very ill, and I feel like also I could pass out at any moment. Character development is key, it is vital, but with an episode and program like this, I feel that just too much of the runtime was dedicated to it. And the actual time dedicated to it was spent mostly setting stuff up. This is all stuff that's just setting the stall, setting the stage for stuff that we're not going to see for maybe an episode or two's time, and in some cases, maybe not for many episodes further down the road. On all this stuff, let's be blunt, it's not foreshadowing, it's just sticking a big massive neon sign in front of the front guard and just saying exactly what's going to happen with these characters. And even then, the setups themselves do feel rather abrupt. The stuff with Midoriya, it's obvious that all this stuff is going to play out when he ends up fighting Shinzo later on in this story arc. And even then, again, it's not really spent that much time developing or really working with. It's just, oh, here's Midoriya, here he is at the start of the episode, oh, Shinzo's going to unlock a new power for you, see you in a few episodes' time. The stuff with Tenya feel as though it should be the main focus of the episode itself, that this should be Tenya's episode, an episode we will learn a little bit more about him and how he's dealing with the pressures of taking on his older brother's superhero name and having to go up and build that legacy and the lengths that he's had to go to end up making himself a better hero. But we didn't really get that, and we've only really had it in this episode in the form of your typical anime flashback fight bits, which, sure, they're a thing, but in an episode like this where you're having to compete with another character for screen time, it doesn't really work as much as it should do. And of course, we've got the stuff with Shoto and Endeavour, which, whilst I do enjoy that whole character arc stuff, it really doesn't hang that well in this particular episode. It kicks off with a cutaway with Endeavour saving the day against a generic goon. And even then, it doesn't really play much into the overall story itself, let alone the story of this episode. And all it really feels as though it exists there in is for a gag about Shoto not returning Endeavour's text messages. And even with all that said and done, we end up seeing the same flashback at least 2 or 3 times with Shoto and Endeavour. And I'm fairly certain we've seen it in previous episodes as well, and as brutal and as emotive as that bit is, the more we see it, the less impact it has. But, you know, we'll soon find out as the episodes go on. If I'm going to be brutally honest, I'm kind of a little bit burnt out with the Shoto Endeavour stuff, no pun intended. I feel that it needs to be put into the background for a little while, at least until the end of this arc, because I'm kind of getting a bit fed up having to see it week in, week out. I feel that overall the episode itself was good, even if structurally it feels as though its focuses were spent too much on trying to build too many characters in one go. Up until this point, it's been maybe a character, or maybe a couple of characters that I've been working with. With this week's episode, it was focused on 3 characters, mostly with flashback stuff that itself didn't really play that well into the main arc of the episode and story itself. How this all will end up working, we'll soon find out in due course. In all, really enjoyed the episode. I don't think it's as good as the other episodes we've seen thus far. Sorry, I'm ill. But, you know, we'll soon see where all this goes. But what about you, dear listener? Did you enjoy this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below, and we'll get back to you shortly directly in comments themselves or towards the end of next week's video. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTube stuff that YouTube wants you to do. See you next time. I'm going for a lie down. Goodbye! Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!